All right. Hello, everybody who is here. My name is Christina Holt. I'm going to be kind of piloting this session today. And Tanya and Laura and Vanessa and iPhone, you guys, if you have anything to add, please feel free because this is such a giant topic that I'm sure we all have our different pieces of knowledge on it. But today we're going to talk about following the money, and it's kind of a 101. So just the very beginning of what it looks like to keep track of what our representatives and what our senators and what our county council members are actually doing and whose influence they seem to be under. So yeah, let me refigure out how to share. Super thanks to Ku'ule for letting us use her Zoom room. She's currently on her way back to the Big Island from Kauai. So sending her love to the sky. Um, okay, here we go. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can see it.
I'm gonna leave it off of like presenter mode just because it is a little easier for me to flip back and forth through my thoughts to be able to do that. So stop me anytime if you have questions, but these are just the things that I think about on a regular basis. So I want to start at the very beginning for our representatives. And these numbers vary just a tiny bit, but I want to talk about their salary, their yearly pay. Okay. So currently, our representatives are paid $74,160 a year. Laura, maybe you can confirm if the Senate pay is in line with House pay because I'm running for House. I'm keeping more tabs on that, or you either, Tanya. Um, but the current pay for House members is $74,160 per year, which is just about the same, if not a little bit more, than the average income of um, of a resident in Hilo. So currently, right now, where they sit, our representatives make about the same as an average person in Hilo, which I think is great. Now, unfortunately, starting on January 1st, 2027, or unfortunately, in my opinion, I suppose, their pay is going up 32% to $97,896 per year. Again, that is a 32% raise. And I believe that over the next several years after that, the pay will continue to increase until 4 years down the line when their pay is going to be around $101,000 per year, which is obviously way above the average amount that our residents, at least in Hilo, and I'm sure more than a lot of residents in Puna make on a yearly basis. Um, Now, I personally would love to see our representatives' incomes on a district by district basis directly tied to the average income of constituents in their district because nothing would help them fight for us to get that $98,000 raise, like making sure the only way that they get it is if we also get it. So again, keep in mind this is when our minimum wage is currently $16 an hour. It's going to go up to $18 an hour in 2 years, as if that helps anybody.
A
So
32% raise is really insane.
yeah, imagine. I would I would love to get a 32% raise from my
I don't remember the people giving any type of performance review. I guess they consider getting elected
they do. That's what they tell us every time, right? There's if you don't
is
like
their
it, run.
performance review.
So here we are. Also worth noting, like who gives our representatives raises, right? Like we and the answer is they do. They give themselves raises. They are the ones who gets to decide how much they get paid. So they have given themselves a performance review and determined that they deserve a 32% raise when their trust with the public seems to be at an all-time low. So there's that. But that's not all of the money that they get either. So on top of their salary, their yearly pay, they also get specifically outer island representatives and senators are given a per diem. So just remember that, and we're going to touch base on that in a couple of minutes. So on top of this $74,000, They also get a yearly allowance. Okay. And this is can be distributed throughout the entire year. And it is currently $15,952. Now, my understanding is that this number is directly related to their pay. So we can assume that this number is also going to increase 32%. Let me look at what that math would be. We'll just round it up to $16,000 times 0.32. That is going to be an additional $5,000. So this is bumping up to $21,000 of yearly allowance per representative and per senator. Now, the authorized uses of this money, which again is tax money, so our money, is office supplies, which includes like furniture, equipment, TVs, whiteboards, air filters, whatever else. They can use it for printing and mailing newsletters, and they can use it for registration fees and travel to conferences, and they can use it for expenses tied to community meetings, otherwise known as town halls.
Is
Now,
anyone else hearing Kool-Aid say no can,
yeah,
period?
exactly, exactly. This is definitely something that Tanya and Kule have been talking about for sure. And I think it's pretty clear that where we all stand, myself, Tanya, Kule, all the Moho'aina candidates, all the Moho'aina are, we we think that the community meetings and town halls are the most important thing that our representatives and senators could be spending this yearly allowance on. Um, so now let's go back to,
I
or
mean,
let's
it
go.
would definitely help with engagement. It could help with people wanting to vote, feeling not disenfranchised,
Mhm.
right? So the fact that there's funds for them to interact and communicate with us, and they choose to keep doing like their mailing newsletters, which is so old school. Like, hey, look what I've done. Um, I don't know. There's just so much more that it looks like can be done.
Yeah, like massive amounts. Also, it's very, very difficult for us to keep track of what bills and laws they're introducing and passing and why. So if they were in community and spending this allowance on being in community and talking with us about what we want, what we need, and what we think about their job, they could be getting performance reviews monthly.
And they could be doing digital newsletters and still staying in communication with the newsletters and not having to print and mail them,
Yep.
which is really like I see a lot of them in the garbage at the post office
Yeah.
when I go pick up my, you put your post office mail.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, Vanessa. Jump in whenever you have something.
Yeah, and I just to be a little bit of a devil's advocate, I totally hear what you're saying, Tanya, and a lot of that stuff does belong in the garbage because it's just a bunch of fluff. But I am kind of old school and I like reading
Mhm.
things that aren't digital. But every time I get one, from my rep, I get mad because there's nothing substantive there. And there's no outreach like, hey, we're thinking about doing this and we would like to get constituent input on this. Call our office and let us know. Or here's the laws or here's the bills that we have specifically introduced and that we're working on. Those newsletters, those mailings could be used in a much more productive way. And for the cost of printing and mailing, the amount of fluff that's there, it does make me kind of mad because it could be a good tool if properly used.
Yeah,
Um,
see that.
so yeah.
And a 30% increase on that. So it's going to be over $21,000 that they're going to have then.
Yep. Yes, yes. Could not agree more. So I heard a candidate the other day on one of their social media posts talking about how happy they are to have another job because they consider the legislature to be a part-time job, which is also something that I've heard throughout my time interacting with politics, and it just doesn't make sense to me that that would be the case. So let's look at what their work year looks like. Okay, so we have our legislative session, which is mid-January. I believe this year it started on January 20th, and it goes through early May. I think it was through like May 9th or May 10th or something like that this year. So it's roughly 4 months And then they have mid-May through the beginning of the following January off, or as we would like to call it, a community session. So you have your legislative session while you're in office up in Honolulu doing the work for us. And then you're supposed to be back in community the other 8 months, holding those town halls, sharing with people what happened, teaching them how to interact with the system, doing these kinds of civics things. And again, getting paid coming up 90, what was it? I already forgot. $97,000. So yeah. So also let's bring back the per diem thing. Our legislative outer island or neighbor island or non-Honolulu based representatives are paid $248 per day of the legislative session. That's their per diem. That's supposed to be to help them pay for housing, transportation, existing in their job, which immediately first makes me think like, wow, I really would love if our regular people jobs would help us with such things. Truly, like, can you imagine if all of our jobs helped us and we didn't have to pay for our own gas, our own car maintenance, our own rent? So like all those things were just like included as a chunk of money that we were allowed to use per day. So just to like break it down for the session. So we'll say the session is 4 months long. There's 4 weeks in each session and in each month. And then there's 5 days in each one of those weeks. So there's 80 days of work that these people are doing. And
But
if
hold on one second. Just FYI, the session is 60 days unless it's extended.
okay,
But
thank you, Laura.
the reason why it's longer in your count, it's which makes sense, is because there are recesses in there as well.
Okay, and the recesses, they are supposed to be back in community, or I thought recesses were like they
Yeah,
were
it could
still
be
working.
could be for community engagement, stakeholder engagement, really researching and putting together amendments because you're mid-session, right? And the recesses are at really critical times during the session.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is what we mean. We're all learning together and everybody's input is so super valuable. So if we have 60 days of session where our representatives and our senators from the non-Oahu living islands are paid an extra $248 a day, that is an additional $14,880 that they are being paid. Okay, so let's just add those numbers together because I am a number freak. We're going to go with the current pay right now, 74,160 plus that 14,880. That's a base pay essentially of, oh, whoops, wrong numbers. I have a little bit of dyslexia sometimes. 74,160. That brings it to a base pay of $89,000 per representative for this year. Again, not including their yearly allowance of another 15,952, bringing us up to a cute this year $105,000 that our representatives have to work their part-time job to get things done for us. So with that kind of money, you would think that they would be mostly focused on representing the people. But this is where we often hear or are told, or we tell you all that you need to do your own research on the individuals so that you can see exactly what they're doing. So that's the next part of this. If anybody has any questions for what we've talked about so far, please let me know before we move on to our next little topic guy.
Very clear. Thank you. Very clear.
Yay. Thanks, Tanya. Okay, so let's talk about, start talking about how we can start doing our own research here, okay? So this slide just says where to find. So these are our allowance reports. This is dealing just with the roughly $16,000, okay? And I'm going to post these slides on our Google Doc that Google Drive so everybody can go see this too. And I can put them in the chat at the end before we log off so that everybody can see. So if we go to the House allowance reports, let me see, I think I have that up. Oh, here we go. So this is where that link takes you. We're just looking at the House right now because I'm running in a House race. So this is the stuff that I have the most familiarity with. So what you can do once you get to this page is you can Control F or Command F and search for your current representative. So I search for the word Sue. We can see Representative Leloy, and we can click on her 2026 report. And that is going to bring up where she's at. And again, this is just where she's at this year of 2026. So we can see that her initial balance was $16,350 of money that she was allowed to spend. She has spent $9,800 and has $6,500 balance remaining that she can spend. And then you can go through here and you can see the date, the amount, and the description. So we've got $16 printing newsletters. There's a bunch of office refreshments, $126 on refreshments and picture frames. We've got $467 for Hawai'i Island delegation meeting. We can see down here that there was travel or airfare to the home island, which I'm assuming means that there was a town hall, hopefully. And then again, I just want to remind you that they also had all the per diems that they could go back and forth all the time if they wanted. And we have another travel and airfare to and from home island, which was
it's a town hall that weekend for sure.
Town hall that weekend on the 27th, which isn't during session. That's definitely like all up in campaign season, but I digress.
Where are you?
So instead of using their own money or their campaign money to fly around and do town halls, and this is kind of what we mean when we talk about like the bully pulpit, like when the incumbents have this kind of advantage, because if they have a $16,000 starting point to spend
airfare to and from home island, isn't it from? I mean, I'm so confused. Like, where were you originating from? And yeah, anyway.
I mean, I'm assuming I read that as originating in Honolulu and coming here for a town hall and then going back to Honolulu.
So they were working before that.
Yeah.
In Oahu.
Yeah. So here we have some, fun stuff. Bubble wrap, lots of office refreshments. I also can't really remember the last time I had a job that just like busted out a bunch of money for office refreshments for me either, but maybe we can all get there one day, guys. Okay, so essentially this is what the report looks like. They have them every year. I believe they started publishing these in 2023. So we can look over the past 3 years for any representative or any senator on exactly what they've been spending their tax allowances on. Does that make sense? Anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Okay, so for my own purposes, to like conceptualize where the money is going further, I split up into 3 tiers. Their allowance money, okay? So we have the tier 1, most important to me, expenses tied to community meetings, town halls, the money that they spent specifically on town halls. Tier 2 is going to be printing and mailing newsletters, which is just like talking at people, but not a dialogue. And then tier 3, the least important to me, is internal operations and self-directed money. So, now that I'm looking at this too, after we just looked back at that report, I'm realizing that I suppose the airfare should have been included in my tier 1 for Representative Leloy. So I can go back and fix that before we do the thing. So that was
let me clarify something too.
Yes.
During the legislative session, and I believe the House does the same as the Senate, but during the legislative session, I believe you get 4 round trips as part of your. I'm not sure. I can't recall exactly if it comes out of the expenses or it comes from a different bucket actually, for the non-Oahu legislators to go from their home island to and back and forth. I believe 4 times a month round trip. And so that's why you see those other 2 in the example that you pulled up are outside of legislative session and therefore being paid by, whereas you don't see necessarily the ones during session, presuming that they come home during sessions.
Oh, okay, great. I'm going to connect with you to learn where to find that information so that we can show people where to find that next time too.
Okay.
It would be really awesome if anybody knows how to see. Oh, we got another person waiting room. Hello. It would be really fun to see like where our legislators are spending their time throughout the session, like how much of that time is home versus on Oahu. So, hello, KP. Thanks for joining us. Please feel free to jump in and ask any questions. I'm happy to try and clarify further. But right now, we're just looking at, I'll just back up real quick so that KP can be tied in. So we're looking at legislative allowances, which is the almost $16,000 of tax money that they are allowed to spend on community meetings, printing and mailing newsletters, and internal operations, which is like furniture and TVs and whiteboards and staff meals. So I'm breaking down what two representatives and one senator have spent between 2024 and July 26 with their allowance money. So we can see here that Representative Leloy spent $450 on town halls, mostly on airfare for town halls. She spent almost $19,000 on sending out newsletters, and she spent $7,300 on like furniture and staff meals and stuff like that. And again, this is 2024 through July 2026. And this one that we were looking at is just specifically 2026. So this is more of an aggregate data over the last 2 years that she's been in office. And same with Representative Todd. This is a really interesting number. We can see that Representative Todd spent exactly $0 on town halls and community engagement, like in-person community engagement with his allowance. But he did spend $15,600 on newsletters and $14,300 on internal ops. So again, I would invite everybody to go to your House allowance reports and your Senate allowance reports and dig through these files, because it is really, I mean, if you're into that kind of thing, I'm into that kind of thing. It's fun to dig through what people are up to. Okay, does anybody have any questions about the allowance breakdown? Make sense to everybody? Sick. Okay, so let's move on to the next big bucket of money things that I would love to talk about, which is campaigning. Okay, so in campaigning, when we were running in campaigns, we get donations, and those donations are called contributions. And so we're going to look at how you can go and literally dig through the minutia of where everybody is getting their money. I want you guys to have this information for your current representatives and for your future representatives. Keep us accountable. Keep an eye on where the money is coming from. So we can see here that we're looking at just the last 2 years, or the last session, essentially. So House is every 2 years, there's an election. And then Senate, I think it like does like a weird kind of flippy thing, right, Laura and Tanya? It's like 4 years, then 2 years, then 6 years or something like that, the Senate.
I think those 2 years are the half for the Senate, because is that because when they reapportion the districts level?
Yeah, so that they stagger half of the Senate, so that not all of the Senate is up at one time. Like the House is always up every 2 years.
Right.
They stagger the Senate, so they do 2, 4, 4 for half of them, or maybe it's 13 of them.
Cool. Amazing. Thank you guys. So that is why here, when we're looking at Representative Leloy and Representative Todd, we're looking at 22 through 24, but when we're looking at Representative San Buenaventura, we're looking at 2022 through 2026. Okay, because her last term was 4 years. And like these numbers aren't fully complete because we're like literally in campaign season right now. So we won't have like the full picture of what everybody has, or what Senator San Buenaventura has received and spent. And then I just pulled.
Because if I'm not mistaken, she just sent out a mailer that came maybe yesterday or the day before to her district. It was a 4-page mailer with the Senate seal, so from her Senate office. And so presumably that had a cost and would be noted on the full disclosure at some point.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing that because the timing of that seems a little bit funny to be using your yearly allowance, but allegedly, right? Okay, so here we can see that for Rep. Leloy for the 2022-2024 time period for her run for House in 2024, she raised $42,600 essentially. 8,500 of that or so was from individuals, so like people like you and me and your neighbor, like real individual people, who's an individual. Sorry, I'm spiraling a little bit. So individuals can donate up to $2,000 per cycle per House representative and $4,000 for Senate. Okay. So individuals donated $8,500 to Leloy's campaigns, and she raised a total of $34,000 from PACs, unions, and other organizations, so not individual people. And the total number of contributions she got was 65. Now, I believe that the last time she had a primary, she spent $59,000 on her primary campaign. So this is a really good example of what we call like a war chest, right? So like at the end of the campaign season, your donations don't just evaporate, or you're not forced to like give them to the public finance system. You can just hold on to them and roll them into your next cycle, which is how we end up with senators and representatives with like over $1 million in their campaign bank, which then again makes it really, really, really difficult for first timers and challengers to compete in any kind of way. Okay, so here we can see that Representative Todd last raised $46,000, 14,000 from individuals and 32,000 from PACs, unions, and organizations, 101 contributions. And then Senator Sanbuentura raised almost 36,000, almost 9,000 from individual, and 27 from PACs, unions, and organizations. Now, another piece of information that is important to know when you're looking at numbers like this is if they had competitive races, right? Like Senator San Buenaventura has not had a challenger for many years up until now. Then she has Tanya to challenge her. So the lower numbers here do also reflect the fact that she likely didn't have anybody running in her primary. Is that right, Tanya?
Yeah, I think the next step we could also take with these numbers is how much of this money comes from their district or even our island versus Honolulu or even elsewhere. I mean, I would love to see Honolulu versus, East Hawaii.
That's awesome. Okay, so with that, actually, that's really awesome, Tanya. And with that, we're gonna go to the campaign filing system and run through how we actually can find those numbers. Okay, so this is the URL that you would use. You can also just Google Hawaii Campaign Spending Commission, and it will bring you to this page, which is the homepage of the candidate filing system. Or maybe this isn't the homepage, sorry. This is the homepage of the Campaign Spending Commission. Now, Campaign Spending Commission basically just is supposed to make sure that we're all on the up and up, that we're keeping track of the money that we are getting, we are keeping track of the money that we are spending, and that we are doing both of those things in legal ways, okay? So, and this is all public information. So you can go to this website and then you're going to go to, I think you go here. Well, yep, sure. So you click on candidate committees and then you're going to drop down here. Oh no, I'm sorry. This is going to bring you to the candidate committees page. And then you can go to browse data. I literally have to relearn this every time because this website is better than some, but worse than most. So we're going to come down here, browse candidate committee data, and we're going to go into searchable data. And we're going to scroll down here to our searchable data sets, search any data set. And we are currently interested in contributions received. So donations received, which is this first option, Schedule A. All right, now we are in like the data set system. Now, the easiest way to do this, in my opinion, is to just go into actions and go to query data, which is just like search data. And it's going to bring up everything. Every representative, every senator, every race. You can see that there are 1,276 pages here. So we're going to come down here to the filters. You guys can see my cursor, right? Okay, right. And we're going to go select column to filter. We're going to go to candidate name. And then we're going to search for I'm going to start typing in, and it's going to bring up Miss Joy. And you can keep going here, but we're just going to start with, or maybe we could do, let's see if we can do, oh, look, see, here we go. We can go zip code. So we could search for, well, I'm probably getting ahead of myself. Let me just do this. All right, so here we're on San Buenaventura. We're going to apply. It's going to run the query, and then we can drop it down here. And this is going to show you, like, this is our candidate column. This is showing us what kind of entity gave this contribution. Individual, other entity is like a business. Look right here, we have Alaska Airlines donating $500. And then this is in 2024. So a couple of years ago, Alaska Airlines donated to Joy. We've got non-candidate committee. That's a PAC. So Alexander and Baldwin is a giant bank, lots of big money, and it's a PAC. Let's see, we've got, so yeah, so anyway, so now we can start scrolling through here and we can start looking at who is all up in here. Tanya, feel free to jump in, but it's like we've got Allstate Insurance, which is interesting because of conversations we were having about lava insurance the other day, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Anheuser-Busch. I'm looking at I mean, plumbers and pipe fitters doesn't really affect, bother me as much, but the Hawaii Realtors PAC. So I'm just looking at just in the last month, like just in the most recent report, not the aggregate like that.
We can, and sorry, I should have said what I was doing, but up here you can sort them by date. Okay.
Right.
So now it's like, this is now like the oldest one we have on file, I think.
Can you widen that so we can see the year?
Let me try and pull. Let me try. I suppose not.
Okay, no worries. No worries.
This is also worth noting, like this is that right there, Tanya, is why I will generally export this data and do a CSV file and then upload it into either Excel or Numbers or Google Sheets. And then it's a lot easier to, like, as a spreadsheet person, it's a lot easier to look at what's going on. Yeah. Oh, maybe we can do, will that spread everything out? No, it won't. Anyways, what do you think? Tanya, do you have any other thoughts on this particular guy?
Alexander and Baldwin.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if I knew the year, you know, especially like for me, the amounts aren't like huge, but I'd want to look at, you know, how, you know.
It looks like Alexander Baldwin, for example, we've got 2016, 2018, 2020, and 2022.
Okay, I could see when you do that. Yeah.
So to me, that's a sustained effort,
right,
of alliance and friendship we've got going on here.
Yep.
Allstate Insurance, we've got a 2023 and a 2025.
Yep.
Yeah, so definitely worth like I don't know who this is. Altria Client Services. That's kind of a lot.
Right. So they would be like worthy of being Google, but like American Beverage, I mean, these are important, like things like this where they're like distributors or they're people who are, you know, we're importing a lot of things into the state. So there's moving beyond smoking. Got it. This might be the vape.
And it looks like, so it's like wholly owned subsidiary of Altria Group that provides essential operational and professional support.
Yep.
Legal, finance, IT, HR, and regulatory affairs to Altria and its tobacco subsidiaries.
So that's tobacco industry type money.
We love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely worth like, and then like it's also interesting to see here that the one we just Googled was saying that they're based in Virginia, but this is a P.O. box. So it's always worth just kind of like crawling through the data, and anything that catches your eye, like go
And
and
I would just add about Altria. I'm a former smoker, so I'm like, oh, that kind of came up. It's according to Google, an American corporation, one of the world's largest producers and marketers of tobacco, cigarettes, and medical products.
wow, they've got the whole gamut. Smoke this, but stop smoking that and smoke this instead, right? Cool. And that actually brings me to another thing.
Real quick,
Yep.
Christina. So also donations need to be, or contributions need to be uh, less 30% or less than 30% from the continent or outside of Hawaii, actually. And so that one with the PO box is interesting because if the address is out of state, but there's a PO box, it's interesting to wonder how they're determining whether it's in state or not in state.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if large contributors to our local campaigns also maintain a PO box in district or in state so that they can, not upset that over 30%,
Yeah, that's a really good point.
which might be a little sus
Yeah.
or a lot.
I mean, you could already tell that obviously the bigger money comes from Honolulu base, so
Yeah.
Pipakeo is not her district. Right?
Yeah, I dropped in the chat an
Brinkley,
article
right?
from 2018 that talks about, out of district donations, which is really common. So it's super important to look what's coming from your district.
Yeah, especially what's coming from in-state and out of state too. But yeah, so this is where we can see. Like, here's another one, Sacramento, Charter Communications, telecommunications, right?
Sometimes you can see patterns also too if the person is a chair. You could see sometimes there seem to be patterns about donations kind of related to that topic. Like, so for example, if you're like the tourism chair, you might be getting a lot of, more service industry and tourism related donations. Transportation chair could be like a lot of transportation related things. So some other patterns to look at.
Yep.
I mean, I definitely saw a couple names that I could send to other people so they know that, that's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that also brings me to another pattern thing. What I have on the page right here are all of these friends of. So we've got friends of Della Bellotti, friends of Ernie Martin, all of these. These tend to be campaigns. So not all campaign committees are friends of. Like mine is just Holt for Hawaii. But Laura's was Friends of Laura Ocasio, right? So when you start seeing all this, this is something that I was working on really hard at the legislature this session. So I'm just going to talk about it for a second. So we have a loophole in our system where candidates can accept donations from other candidates' campaigns if that money is coming by way of a fundraiser ticket. So like I could hold a fundraiser and then I could invite Tanya, and literally like the most like ridiculous nefarious thing is I could do a fundraiser where it's just like coffee with Tina, and then I invite Tanya and I tell her that tickets are $1,000 and she can get two, and so then she gets $2,000 tickets to my campaign fundraiser that she uses from her campaign funds, not from her own funds, and then she comes over and has coffee with me and we call it a fundraiser, right? Does that make sense? It's a little dense. Yeah.
It's a way to pass around money, especially when people maybe don't have anyone running against them or they're not up for reelection.
Yeah. And I wrote an op-ed and civil.
Money could just keep circling, actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yes, exactly. So, and I wrote an article in Civil Beat about this, but it's like, for example, a anti-tobacco group sent out a mailer on behalf of Representative Leloy saying like she's so cool she didn't take money from big tobacco. She's not a big tobacco girly. But if Sue sold a fundraiser ticket to Senator San Buenaventura, who has taken a bunch of money from big tobacco, then who's to say that the money from big tobacco just didn't get essentially filtered and laundered through San Buenaventura's campaign into Leloy's campaign, right? Like, this is just an example that I've made up on the ticket things, just to be clear. But like, this is how, even within like candidate to candidate, we end up in a dark money system. And this is how, like, another hypothetical example is like a leadership of the party who maybe has $1 million in their campaign account and no one that they're worried about running against them. They can donate to, so we'll call them candidate A, like leadership candidate A could buy fundraiser tickets to candidates B, C, and D. And then those three candidates could then buy fundraiser tickets to each to candidate, what was that, A, B, C, D, E, right? So like now all of a sudden, candidate E has just received $6,000 essentially from candidate A, as that money has passed through candidates B, C, and D. Does that make sense? One of these days I'll put together a chart, but like we tried really hard to pass a bill this year that would cut that out because that's weird. Like, if I'm donating money to Tanya, I would like for my money to go to Tanya. I would not like for that money to go to some other candidate that I don't know. Okay.
It ends up creating alliances and allegiance within the factions, and it's basically, I mean, lack of better words, it's a form of grooming.
Yeah.
And creating allegiance and loyalty. Obviously, we can look at it altruistically on the sense of like, we want to support you, but generally, again, when it comes down to the claims of not taking certain money from certain groups, it gets a lot hazy.
Yeah. Well, and as we saw earlier, these people are making plenty money. So like, if you want to donate to another candidate, I want you to do that with your own money, which if you're already a representative is already our tax dollars. So like, just use the money in your own bank account if you think it's that important. I was like, yeah.
That's what non-legislators have to do. Generally,
Yes, exactly.
If I was going to contribute to somebody's campaign, I'm doing it from my personal.
Exactly. So anyway, so this is how we end up with these astronomical numbers for people. And like, this is what I'm about to say is also just my personal opinion. But if people are spending $50,000 to $200,000 plus on their state level primary races, then I don't think that they're responsible enough to deal with our state budget, because it's like a crazy amount of money to be spending. Okay, so I think that wraps up. It's already 6:53. I think that wraps up what I was going to talk about with contributions. Do Tanya, Laura, anybody did I forget anything or was I unclear? Does anybody have any questions?
No, I love how you're showing us where to get those reports and then like how to look at the different industries. It's just fascinating, just the different industries, because we don't know like if they're lobbying one way or another or just trying to influence votes in the future. I don't even know why we allow any of that at all. Like, why can't only constituents donate?
That would be awesome. And that's kind of what we're moving towards with SB 2471, or what is the Act 101 or whatever it became once it became law, which was our like small step towards trying to deal with
Citizens United
and big money in our politics. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, because even though they can't take money during the ledge session, they still can take money from these entities. So like, while we eliminated it while the bills are actually being done, aren't bills being written? They're supposed to be working all year round. So that bill's almost like that whole law that says that they can't take money just in those, like, during that ledge session. Are they basically saying, so they're only working during that time?
Well, just to clarify, they can take contributions can be made. They just can't have
Fundraise.
fundraisers.
Okay,
They can't fundraise. Yeah.
I mean, oh God.
They can take money, but they can't ask for money.
Yeah.
That's a very weird distinction.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly,
Thanks for that clarification.
at least one of the reasons why that came about was because bills are being heard during the session. And so, of course, there's active lobbying and such. And there were allegedly there were legislators who would hear bills and then defer them to a later date and then send out donation requests to folks that maybe were in stakeholders of the bill. And so I think it was part of just trying to clear some of that potential opportunity. And I also think, yeah. So anyway, we'll just leave that there.
And they wonder why people don't trust them. And they wonder why the rest of us are like, no, thanks.
I mean, again, that adds to the disenfranchisement of people and the lack of engagement. And then they could counter it by doing things in their community using their legislative allowance. And yet it seems that they use it mostly on themselves or their staff. Anyways, it's just another disappointing.
Yeah. Also worth
closing.
noting that like we're doing this Zoom at the cost of premium Zoom. Like that's
Right.
That's
It
all
doesn't
that
take-
this costs. And we're all volunteering our time to do it. So it's like
again, this is why we want activists to get into office, because we know how to do things on a scrappy budget. And then we get all of our friends to help.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay, so we're almost out of time, and we're almost at the end of our little beginner 101 session here. So the
Yes.
next slide that I want to show you guys is expenditures. So this is another part of our campaign. Oh, let me go back over here. Our searchable data. Okay, so contributions received are what people receive, and expenditures made are how people are spending that money. So you can also go here. It looks exactly the same, and you can query the data and you can see what people are spending their donations on, more or less. So let's see, we'll go candidate name. Let's do a Todd search. We all apply. Oh, look, this time it shows us the whole date. Well, I guess that was the wrong way. Sort ascending. All right, so we can scroll down here. Why does it do it that way, guys? I feel like that's not made no sense. It did not sort the dates correctly at all. So anyway, so we can see here like Act Blue. So we know that Representative Todd uses Act Blue to take in donations. So do a bunch of us, myself included. So these are the costs essentially every time you donate to a campaign via Act Blue, they take a little cut. So like that's what all of these things are. Looks like we've got an Adobe subscription, longtime Adobe subscription for, I suppose, putting together all of those mailers. I think his district received 2 like within a couple days of each other this year. I'm so sorry, everybody. My dog is being insane. Here he is. I'm gonna put him in his crate real quick because he's driving me crazy. Be right back. Okay. Thank you. Weenie dog problems. So yeah, so here you can just like comb through what here we go. Banners on the cheap. That's where he buys his political banners from that are all over town. Back to our little aggregate data. Again, this is just the same time period that we looked at before, 2024 through what we know so far for this season. We can see that so far Sue of her, $38,000 that she's spent that we know of over this last cycle, she's spent the most of it on food and beverages. Oh, sorry, these shouldn't be dollars. They should be regular numbers. Chris has spent the largest chunk of his money on fundraiser tickets. That is the thing that we were just talking about. So the most of his money that he spends is on giving that money to other candidates. Okay. Which is also interesting to note that he is currently the finance chair. And
We really need to get
allegedly,
that bill passed to stop that.
yes. So allegedly, my opinion looking at this would be that like, oh, so he's been for the last several years spending the like largest chunk of his money on candidate fundraiser tickets, and now he's in one of the most powerful positions in our state house. So like this is what we mean by follow the money. Besides the fact that Ku'ule really scared them, so they gave Chris a big boost, obviously, to me. And then we can see that Joy spent the least amount on like big things, but as we were saying, she didn't really have very much competition until Tanya came along. And her biggest thing that she spent money on is travel and lodging, which is interesting because like for her campaign, she spent money on travel and lodging. So like to me, that would be a really good thing to dig into in those expense reports of just like, where are you going for your campaign that you would need to spend money on travel when you live in the district that you're trying to represent? These are my questions. Okay. I know, it's so crazy. And like, and they literally count on us not paying attention.
Right.
Like they count on us not paying attention. They count on people just being like, this is a black box. I have no idea. I'm too busy to think about it, which is normal because most of us are too busy to think about it. So this was,
Oh, I can put that in the chat.
yeah, please put that back in the chat.
If you want to click on that link.
I'm gonna click on this link, Tanya, and then if you don't mind just like talking about it for a second. My weenie dog is still screaming at me, so I'm assuming that he needs to go to the bathroom. And I'll be right back.
This is a blog post that former senator and progressive influencer, I guess I would call him, Gary Hoosier wrote just last week. And I wanted her to scroll down a little bit, but I can open it up so I can see it. And basically it was talking about buying influence, and I love the title, Buying Influence by Any Other Name is Still Buying Influence. Yes, it is. And so we can look at the people who are running on our island, because he noted several notable people and donations. Eddie O, who's running for county council, received over $7,800 from Red Horse Strategies. Chantal Perrin, Red Horse Strategies, over $8,000 in July. Heather Kimball, over $8,700. And then Derek Kawakami received $125,000 from one LLC, the DBA, the Adwell Group, which is very interesting. So he's running for lieutenant governor. Also received from Targeted Platform Media $436,000 from one LLC. So like I haven't even looked that up, but that's kind of like what?
Sorry, I'm back. Should I scroll down?
Yeah, thank you. So it's just interesting when you start to look at behind the scenes what's really happening. These super PACs, which basically the problem with super PACs is we don't know who's donating to them. We don't know where their money's coming from. It's all dark money.
Mm-hmm.
And so if a super PAC is giving to a local, especially a hyper local candidate, like a county council person, I don't know. Do we want that happening? It's kind of like when a developer builds a house next to yours and it's like so beyond, like hundreds of thousands of dollars more than your house. And so everything gets more expensive immediately. That's what happens when we put this kind of money into elections. I think it was Tina. I heard you say on a post, or what was on, like a podcast, on Kalihua's interview with you, and you called it like the campaign
Oh, the
election
campaign industrial complex.
industrial
Yep.
complex. And in my head, I was thinking the same thing. Like, as soon as you file your papers or pull your papers, you're getting text, text banking, sell this, buy our postcards. It is a massive industry. And so all of a sudden, when people put all this kind of money into an election, every election gets more expensive every time this happens. We got to shut this shit down.
Yep. Amen.
The last presidential election was over $1 billion spent. I mean,
I
that's
remember when Obama went over like a major limit, and now I can't remember what that limit was because it pales in comparison now. But even though I liked him, I was really angry that he went like to that level to spend that kind of money. And so even when it's people we like, it doesn't mean that we have to like the process and want that part of the process, because it totally overshadows our voices as constituents. These people are putting money, and even if they don't win, so even just take out the equation that they're buying elections, you can maybe not believe that. They're still increasing the cost of every election. It's still money coming from elsewhere. It's still them getting more of a conversation with the person who they're donating to than us. There's so many other things wrong with it, as well as the fact that they're actually buying people's time and attention and possible future votes.
Yeah. And similar, like we were talking about this on another call about like the mailers and everything that go out. Or not on the call, the Ainaloa thing, we were talking about this. Like all of this stuff is marketing. It's
It's all
all
marketing.
marketing. So any mailer that is sent out that has a candidate's face on it, like that candidate or a company that they paid to do like public facing things for them wrote that. Like it wasn't.
Right.
It's crazy.
I mean, it also worries me because when other people are doing the marketing and they can't, okay, so that's the other big problem with super PACs, is they can't associate directly with the campaign, right? So they can say whatever they want.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be vetted by the campaign, by the actual person running for election or anything. They can, it's just so weird. Ever since that law went into effect, Citizens United, like that's so horrible. It's been gross ever since then. And that was like, that all happened after 9/11. All of like Citizens United, Patriot Act, all of that stuff.
Bad, bad. Bad, bad, bad.
And that's ever since then, our elections have just gone completely off the chain. Crazy.
Yeah, very little accountability as to what is truthful on mailers, because there's not really a recourse for like double checking it, and also the language is often kind of vague or uses a lot of association kind of bias.
And another thing, like I'd love other people's opinion on, is so Sylvia Luke has gotten all this bad press about her campaign spending reports from years ago too. You know what I mean? I just don't know why that didn't kind of get such an uproar that we just want to see an audit of all the top, any election that has had over X amount of dollars. Like, let's look at this. Like, is this really the direction we want to go? Because honestly, as someone who, really wants money out of politics, period, we need as many people to come and testify this next year as possible on these kind of bills, because it affects all of us. And even I've testified on a lot of these bills over the last couple of years. And we need so many more people to come out so that they really understand that we don't want money in our elections like this. This is insane.
Yep. Fully agree. That's actually an awesome segue to the last little thing that I want to show you guys today. And that is how to find exactly what bills our specific representatives and senators are putting forward. Okay. So this is a link that gets you to one spot, but I'm going to go through a slightly different path real quick. So let's go back to, this is our homepage. Okay. This is capital.hawaii.gov. The more like into the weeds of this stuff you get, the more time you're going to spend here. So when you register, all you need is your email and a password and your name. So like no big deal. I'll go ahead and log in so we can go through all the things. This is going to be your homepage for my legislature. This is where you can submit testimony. You can set up notifications for hearings for specific committees or specific bills. You can track things here. But we're going to start with find your legislator right here. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Pardon me. We're going to start with finding our legislator. We're going to go to legislator. We're going to go to Senate members. And we're going to do Miss Joy. Okay, so here she is. This is her office in the building. So if you're in Honolulu, this is where you could previously find her. This is the phone number of her office and her capital email address. When you click on the name, you can scroll down. All of this stuff they write. Like, so that's all propaganda probably. So then we're going to go here. These are the committees that she was a member of in 2026. So we've got Health and Human Services and Judiciary. The Judiciary is known to be quite powerful, a very, very powerful committee. So if you click on the committee name, you can see all of the people. We've got Carl Rhodes, Mike Gabbard. You can like see all the things specific to that committee from this page. You can see all the different measures that made it through to them. That doesn't mean that they passed out of that committee, but you can see all of those. So this is a fun place to poke around and see what your specific committees are up to that your representative is on. And then here at the very bottom, this is the one that I kind of have the most fun with personally. You can see measures introduced. So let's see, let's find one that we want. Oh, here, we've been talking about finances. So let's look at, well, I don't know, Tanya, you help me pick which one you want to look at. Oh, let's do relating to insurance because we were just looking at her donations and saw some good sized donations from the insurance. So we can click on that bill and this is going to take you to your bill page. It says SB 46, which means that it was introduced in the Senate first, which makes sense because this is one of Senator Joy's bills. We can climb in here, we can say relating to insurance, report title, health insurance, mandated coverage, annual mental health wellness examination, requires all health insurers in the state, including Medicaid managed care programs, to cover annual mental health and wellness examinations. There was no house companion, which a lot of times doesn't necessarily bode that well for bills, but also sometimes they will introduce Senate and House companion bills that compete with one another to have the public arguing over the semantics between the two bills instead of like the substance of it overall. We can see these are the committees that it was sent to, and we can see that these are the senators that signed off on the bill. So essentially, Senator Sam Buenaventura wrote this bill, her office wrote this bill, and then she sent it around to other senators and was like, will you guys sign off on this? Do you like this? Will you put your name on it?
This one looks like Senator Chang introduced it as the primary introducer.
Oh, because the first name is the primary?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then it goes alphabetical order from there.
Oh, thank you, Laura.
So it's on her list because she signed on to it as an introducer.
Oh.
She's still considered an introducer, but she
wonder
didn't, it didn't originate from her office necessarily. Sometimes they actually have bills and then they'll give it to a different legislator to introduce or
Well,
Lots of reasons.
in that case, let me see if I can retrack my steps on how we find the ones that she was the primary introducer. I feel like this is, so I just found it the other day, but again, I kind of get lost sometimes. Measures by introducer.
Understandable.
I know, right? So this link that I just went to is on the Canva. So how to find their bills, capital.hawaii.gov. That's the thing we just went through to go look for our individual senator representative. And then this link underneath is how we ended up at this page, reports and lists. Measures by introducer. We're gonna go Senator San Buenaventura. And then here, yeah, here we go. So this is measures as the primary introducer. That means that she is the first name on that list. We can click that. And then it's going to bring up this page here where we can see what happened to it. Let's see. I didn't really pick one to look at first. Committee deferred this measure. Report past second reading. Okay, so maybe Laura or Tanya, you can jump in and help explain any of these things. But it looks like all of these are introducers are in alphabetical order too. But these are definitely her primary introduction bills.
Actually, I think when you search, you need to go as the first primary introducer.
Oh.
Yeah. And then
Wow.
Yes, that's accurate.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
So like here, look at SB 297, constitutional amendment, reproductive freedom.
Which one are you looking at?
297 or 296. Any of these you can click on, for example.
All right. So this one relating to minors, consent, medical care, sexual offenses, Hawaii Youth Correctional Facilities, minor offenders. So this is definitely one going through judiciary, right? Which is gonna, oh, actually, no, I guess not. Maybe it would have if it had gone far.
Public safety.
Public safety. Okay. All right, so we're going to use this as just an example to see what folks can do. So if you see this bill, you could basically go through the list. What?
Sorry, my dog's going a little crazy.
This is part of the Women's Legislative Caucus package.
Oh, nice. Okay, great. So that's what this package thing means. That can show you like who suggested the bill, right?
Yeah.
So then if you want to keep track, like say we're in session, it's over, so it probably wouldn't let me do this, but you would subscribe to this and then you would get an email anytime something is happening, like if it's scheduled for something or if it gets another hearing, right? So that's the subscribe. This button you would click to submit testimony on this bill. And here, I'll go ahead and do that, although I don't know if it's going to let me do much of anything. So you would put the bill here and click continue, but it's not, sorry, there's no hearing on it, so it's not going to let me show you what the testimony page is. But you would be able to type in whatever you want, even, and your testimony matters, even if it's just like, I support this, or I hate this, or I don't, whatever, you know, you can just, any little bit that you put down will be helpful here. It's a numbers game. This is the packet over here under testimony is a really interesting thing to look at too, because you can see, let's see, we got 19 pages of testimony. This is written testimony that people sent in. And you can skim through and see who the testimony came from, what they felt about it, and you can get more information because a lot of times organizations and experts on these things will send in testimony to each one of these bills. And then we can climb down here and we can say, oh, now we can see what happened. We had pending introduction, introduce and pass first reading. It was referred to its first round of committees. It had a public hearing. It was deferred in both committees. And then it was carried over to 2026. And there was nothing else about it, so nobody's heard it. Nothing happened this year. So we can assume that this bill did not become a law, right? Because this is going to tell you down here the measure status history. Are we too in the weeds? Are you guys asleep yet?
Yeah, I think it's most important to just look at the type of bills if you're trying to compare it to like financial contributions and things like that.
Yes, I have like kind of a ridiculous spreadsheet with all those things, but I think I'd rather save that for like a part two where we can
Yeah.
actually start like drawing the lines, but that we could start making inferences between people's money and who is contributing to their campaigns and what bills they introduced and can see them pass. And if we start that right now, then we'll be here for another hour. And we've already
Right.
talked about hella numbers, and I don't want to do that to you guys today. Um, so with that, I think I'm just gonna kind of like open the floor. Anybody, please share your thoughts, concerns, rants. Would love to hear it.
I appreciate seeing it all laid out. I've dug around in some of those places, but I really appreciate being able to dig into
Mhm.
all of the reports, the money reports, expenditures, all of that. I am interested in, and I probably have it on my browser. I have probably like 500 windows open on my browser, but
Okay.
if you can post the Google
Oh yeah,
um, link to where you all are putting all of these links for us, so I can put it
yes.
somewhere up on my browser where I can see it and go back and forth to
What
it.
was the tiny URL engage Hawaii, right?
Oh,
Engage
that's
high.
right.
Let me.
It was a tiny URL. That's right. Makes it
Tiny.
so much easier.
I just type. Yep. That's totally it. I just dropped it in the chat. Pardon me stealing Ku'ule's picture as I'm using her account today. But yeah, tinyurl.com/engage Hawaii, engage Hawaii. And this is the Google Drive folder where we are dropping links to all of these recorded videos, to soon to be like surveys, just like it's going to be like the meeting place of all these documents, all these presentations, all of these pieces of education that we're putting together.
And
Okay, there it
Tina,
is.
does your presentation, does it has actual links in it? So maybe you can just put that presentation in here because if it
Oh
has
yeah.
links to the Campaign Spending Commission and that stuff, then people can also check that out.
That is a great idea. Let me change the access. Thanks for y'all's patience. I built it today. Um,
Right.
so it will also probably update a little bit as I go back through and like clean it up.
But yeah, you can
Just a
drop
little
it
bit.
in that civic ed folder and that would be awesome. I think there's a
That would
folder.
be great.
I just dropped it in the chat too.
Okay,
I'm
awesome.
gonna put it in. I'm putting it in here for you guys since y'all were in it with me. Once I finish cleaning it up and like making it a little bit easier to follow, just as a person looking at it, then I'm gonna put it in the public folder.
Cool. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Awesome.
Okay, I'm gonna stop recording.
Awesome. Thank you
Yeah.
everyone
Thank
for
you.
Thank
coming.
you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Christina Holt. I'm running for House District 2. This is
Yay.
Tanya Yamanaka Anastasian. She's running for Senate District 2. And Kule is running for House District 3, and she is on her way home tonight from helping the fine people of Kauai. So thank you so much for joining us. And
Thank you for putting this together. Thank you for all the time that it took to, put the graphics and to
Thanks.
do all
Yes.
that. I'm just really appreciating what you guys are doing right now. And I hope that no matter what goes on with the election, that this is a new precedent and it becomes an ongoing thing because it's just a few of us tonight, but you know, as it gets rolled around like a stone in the water and polished up, I really look forward to this being a a regular resource for the community and the community getting smarter about connecting in.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, this is definitely just the beginning. Like
I love
most
it.
of us, we've been talking about doing this for years, and Tanya and Kulile like kicked it off. Which, speaking of, sorry, before I stop recording, we have another talk tomorrow, right, Tanya?
Yes, we do. We have a talk with Allison Blackard. She is from the Ainaloa subdivision. Let me just drop that in here. And we're talking about rat lungworm. And her husband was diagnosed with it. And they just have a really interesting story that we need to get some action on really quickly so that we can get information out to our community so that people can identify if they potentially might have contracted rat lungworm, and then what you need to advocate for yourself at the hospital or through your doctor, because there seems to be some confusion over tests. We don't have the best tests available in East Hawaii, even though we're ground zero for this horrible disease. And possibly not. Here's one of the biggest problems is what triggers, this is a question, what triggers us verifying how many rat lungworm cases we've had here on island. Well, it's getting a certain test and then making sure that the doctors report that when there's a result to the Department of Health that it was testing positive for rat lungworm. Some people never get to that point and they have contracted rat lungworm. Maybe they get so frustrated with our health system here that they move off island, because I know 2 people that had to leave the island to have this taken care of, or maybe they go to another island. Anyway, it's confusing nonetheless. And so we're going to talk to Allison so that we can see, like, what do we need to know, and how do we help advocate for ourselves and getting like clear information when medical treatments change. How does that happen through the medical system? And does it happen fast enough? And why is everything so bureaucratic?
Yeah. Amazing. And that's at 3 p.m. tomorrow?
3 p.m. tomorrow. Again, it'll be recorded because we know people work. And I'm considering that my work tomorrow.
Yeah. Awesome.
Because now it's like, now that I know how horrible this situation is for her and Alan, I want to help. I want to do what I can to help. I mean, that's, I think, one of the great things about running for office, and also like one of the hindrances is that we could really put a lot of time and effort into trying to solve a couple things if we, and then you kind of get like, oh, I'm supposed to be campaigning. Well, for me, campaigning is just like meeting community needs and whatever that looks like. So, and I'm pretty sure that Tina shares that thought.
Yeah, guaranteed.
Why brush over things just to go put out more signs? You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy.
Yep. Full agree. Full agree. Right, with that, I'm gonna stop recording. Thank you guys.
Awesome.